Hello and welcome to this video where I'm going to talk about why the state hates homeschooling. My name's Allie with A. Marie Speaks, and thank you so much for checking this video out and my channel. If you're new, know that I have a bunch of podcasts and blogs already on sort of talking about parenting if you're interested. But here on YouTube, I typically talk about other things. More metaphysical, kind of esoteric information. But I wanted to just bring forth this sort of more real life topic since it's so obvious these days and it's really getting super amplified and extreme. I just think we have to have a laugh at it and we have to also call it what it is. And so, yeah, I'm going to be talking about this running theme of why the state hates and different things about, what their focus is and why they hate them. This video, of course, will be about why the state hates homeschooling. Important note here at the start, what do I mean by the state? Of course, I am kind of talking, I'm from America, I am talking about the state structure of government here particularly. I might even use some parallels or some examples from my actual state and, the bureaucracy and stuff of my state maybe at some point. But more for this, I really want to just give that general label to all and any forms of government out there. And I use that term, the state, also as sort of hearkening back to that Marxist realm that is, I don't know, becoming more and more prevalent right now in these days, I guess, to sort of really kick it in gear and get people to understand the system of the state and what it is at its core. So, of course, yeah, when I say the state, I'm talking about elected officials that stand in government. Feel free to plug in your own type of government and your own type of elected officials that you have in wherever in the world you are. But I'm also talking about the bureaucracy in general and these other unelected officials who sit in these more administrative positions sort of on the fringe of the government who have a lot to do with the management and running the procedures and the processes that happen within the state. So just for beginning here, talking about all these things, the state sort of as a class of people, which it's becoming more and more obvious that they're segregating themselves out with this boundary and attempting to create this like elite political class, especially in America. But of course, that's all over the world, and it's already sort of depending on where you're watching this from, right? You're in a different spectrum of the takeovers. But just in general, yeah, feel free to put in your form of authority, hierarchical authority, just in the state, right? And secondly, what I want to just clear up and note is the state as a system, right, processes and moves out energetic transactions. It has a purpose of doing something, right? It has an end orientation or destination, its point, right? Wants to collect a surplus of things, right? And what is that energy? We have to remember, in this world, we have an option of positive flowing energy or negative flowing energies. And all the state here, every state is oriented in a negative alignment and runs off jet-based systems. So the state hates because it has no other way. That literally is all it does. That's what it is about. It's its fuel. We would love to believe and think and hope that humanity in itself and people as individuals in your direct life, in your communities, families, in the real world to you, your systems will run off of love, right? Especially here, we're going to talk about family, children, homeschooling, and that kind of thing. Like the system that you build and the system you want your child involved in what do you want it to fuel off of and run? What kind of feelings do you want them seeking a surplus of? Bad, detrimental, miserable, enslaving feelings, of crushing debt, and of what's the word? Now I'm going to blank out on the word. Or you feel forced into like doing something, servitude, enslavement. Or do you want them to be seeking a surplus in a system of love, of appreciation, admiration, of, all these positive, energetic feelings of momentum? It seems kind of clear for me as a parent, what I want my children to build a system of, and what I'm seeking to, fuel my own systems on. But just for a moment, in case anybody is brand new to my channel and hasn't heard conversations like this before, I want to just bring in the energetics of it, and for us to remember this is an energetic world, and it's important to remember that based on what you're seeking, the system is set up in a certain way, right? It's set up to get what it needs. And so there's no two ways about the state and what it's doing and what it needs. That's really what I wanted to clear the ground this first episode about. And now let's get right down into my direct topic here about why the state hates homeschool. First and foremost, I kind of went over this in the other video, but I just want to touch on it right now. The state hates homeschooling because they hate independent thinking. It's really as cut and dry as that. They have this false impression and mask that they wear around to trick and fool people, that they want what's best for the student. But at the end of the day, it's really as plain and as simple and as provable, right, as this simple exercise of thinking, if and when I as a parent go in to have a conversation with my teacher, right, a parent-teacher conference, and you present to them your child's unique affinities, what their talents, what they're good at, and also where their weaknesses are, to that teacher, you might be assuming and expecting that that teacher would take that information and knowledge and adapt and tailor fit the curriculum offered, the teaching styles, their presentation of the information to that child's needs, allowing them to, do better, take longer at what they're, what they'd like to, and sort of, not be able, extra help or whatever is needed at the time with things that they're less interested in or that they struggle with, and if you had this expectation, or if you ever tried to have a conversation with like that with a teacher in public school, or even private schools, I'm sure, but I don't have a direct experience in private school. My sons went to public. Anyways, the teacher's response will be this sort of pre-memorized points of stating that they cannot, or they do not have the capacity to change the curriculum for each student. That they don't have the time, they have this amount of kids, that they can't change up what's set to teach based on the child. Now, two sides of this coin, and both sides are true, because from the teacher's standpoint, it really does make sense to say, well, this is the curriculum and the child has to meet it, and however they meet it, they are graded against how well or how many mistakes or whatever they make, against the curriculum. But as a parent now, right, you think about your kid and you think about their life. That's what's important to you. It's not about the schools and their how they perform on tests, or how the board reviews them, or how statistically the average student does in this grade. as a parent, we really don't care about that. What we care about is our child and how they are doing, right? Um, and we want and expect, and we keep pushing at the system to change and to meet our child halfway. And the system's not set up for that at all. It doesn't allow for that. And it's never going to change because it's not written into the procedures. It doesn't fit the bureaucratic organization of productivity and of hierarchical information sending down, right? Of directionality. It doesn't meet the setup. And for people who choose to homeschool, it's really cut and dry because it's quite obvious. I want to give my child the best start in life. I want my child to be, up to their highest potentialities, to not be caged and crushed and trimmed down, just to meet the square box that public school says is a high school transcript, At the end of the day, that's the little carrot at the end of the string in the public school model, So they hate independent thinking. They hate the fact that there could be unlimited interpretations of something. They need and seek, and it's written into the structures, right, to have this sort of reliability, this repeatability. They don't like change and chaos. And in fact, they've really sort of manipulated the word chaos into seeming like threatening, fearful, and anxiety-causing to a lot of people when they just hear that term. Same thing kind of with anarchy, right? They twisted that up and made it seem like it's this really crazy, dangerous thing. When in fact, I think if we pull it back to individuals and think about the individual person as a sovereign being capable of discernment on their own, we would probably understand that those things are distorted in a way to trick us. Much like the state distorts homeschooling to trick us, right? In order to make sure that people go to the schools because they are, they have a negative atmosphere about them. There's no two ways about it. And however that negativity sort of surfaces in your area, in your culture, and in your schools is different from other places all over the world. But it doesn't change the fact that no matter what it is, it has an abundance of negativity sort of radiating around it. The state knows that, but they need more, obviously, to keep it going. So what they do is try to make it as appealing as possible, or make you feel like, in a coercive sort of way, like you have to do it for the overall benefit of society. And that's, a big trick, obviously. So what they do is they say, oh, you're weird if you homeschool. Oh, your child won't be exposed to social etiquettes. They'll be strange. They'll be too segregated from real life. And it's, I will say, before 2020, before this whole change-ups and all this kind of stuff, it was easier to make that argument. But I'm going to say most of us these days are starting to really understand and see the symptoms of what they're allowing and the progressive direction that they're encouraging and enabling in the state and in these schools. And it's not friendly to humans. This is another thing I'm going to get into more about the state hating. And we'll talk about, why the state hates family. Why the state hates independent creation, right? Why the state hates organic life. These things are important for us to realize are embedded in the structure, in the questions, in the content. Everything is cherry-picked to showcase and reinforce all those within the structure of the school, of the state's bottom lines, of their beliefs. And when we come down to it, we have to realize that their beliefs are anti-human, and they're anti-natural organic life. And you have to look no further than the push to blame humanity for the collapse of the planet in all of these different ways that they've been pushing and attempting and trying to get anybody to bite and see if anybody, as many people as possible will jump on board with, scapegoating humans and blaming us for what is in fact, big industry's fault. It's a few groupings of humans running a really mismanaged, disorganized, very highly manipulated and inverted in our organization that will make us feel as if it's disorganized because we think they're running a certain game, when in fact they're running something else behind the scenes, which is very organized, right? We think we're playing checkers. We see the checkerboard, and we think that checkers is being played. And so we're playing the rules of the checkers. Oh, I'm a good guy. Yep, do good, be good. But they are not playing checkers at all. They're playing chess. And they have been for a very long time with us. And we've been the fools, hopping over, playing only our pawns, and thinking that we're playing checkers in this sort of really directional, one to this to this, can only move in this way, can only do this, and when in fact there's many more rules, there's many more players and pieces happening that we're just not at the level of being aware of yet. But we're starting to get there. More and more of us are starting to open up to this and understand what's happening here. More and more of us are starting to flip that game board over and say, I'm not playing your games. I'm going to teach my child how to think logically and clearly. I'm going to teach my child the truth, and that in itself, being able to teach your child the truth and to think independently is the core of why they hate homeschooling. They cannot allow that. No one's going to go and serve a false system full of so much negativity that it is, under the regular premise. No one's going to harm themselves, put their children in front of them like a body shield and push them out into a war zone to be hurt. I just don't see how rational people are really doing that. And it has to be this manipulation, the rose-colored glasses that the state has all the people put on in order to really delude yourself into thinking that this is the only way. Now, I kind of got a little bit away from the topic of homeschooling, and I'm, oh well, it doesn't matter, right? Sometimes you come into mind with these sort of videos and you have an idea of where it's going to go and the things you're going to talk about in a certain way, and then it ends up coming into a whole different presentation, but whatever. I'm gonna leave it here because I did want to keep this video short. I did double time of what I was trying to do, but I tend to be long-winded. If you're not new, you definitely know that already. Thank you so much for listening to this first of probably a few different kind of running topics about the state hates and why and what, and trying to really encourage us to call it for what it is and to say, no, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to hate. I don't hate. I want to feel good and do good things. You know, I want to be what I'm here to do, you know. It's really, when we break it down into that, I think it makes it much more simple. And people could really just wake up to sort of the daydream nonsense, this 3D prison box they have you jammed into. And whether you're in there because you think nowhere else is better, or you just think it's everywhere, or you just cannot think out of it, I hope that something's in here will give you a little bit of space to elbow out and remember you have all of your imagination here to work with. The world is infinite. The organic world is, you know, self-sustaining and sufficient. It's a positively flowing structure that works effortlessly and eternally, as we do. And if you could fit your model and flow into that, your life will change. But it's because we've inverted the flow, you know, and we're turning our inner core, thinking it needs more and more and more all the time. You know, instead of remembering we don't run off hate. We aren't on an empty tank needing to fill and fill and fill and worry about what is left in there or anything like that. You know, in fact, it's totally different than we could even imagine. It's much more magical than that and eternal. And the power source within you is there. And it's burning and it comes. You woke up this morning, right? You're alive. The proof is in the pudding, kind of, so to speak, you know. We each have this one golden ticket of life, a kernel, a flame, whatever you want to look at the soul like, or look at this piece of consciousness as, gift from God. You're tied to the universe, you know. We each have it. The state hates that. Right? No one's going to go do something that is harmful to themselves if, you know, for any reason. We're just not going to. And so when we teach our children, this is the most crucial thing. I'm going to end this here because here I go again on another rant. But as parents, we make the choice to homeschool our children. That's the strongest fuel and fueling of the fire, you know, blowing on the flames, the oxygen. I can't even talk. The amplification of their energy, basically, of their sovereign worth. We coax it and we help them to learn how to flow with it and enable it instead of stifling it and shutting it down and you know, saying it has to fit into a certain label or box. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it there for now on this video. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope it's been relatable, and I hope you'll tune in sometimes in the near future where I'll do another one of these episodes. I think the next thing I'm going to talk about is why the state hates the family, which goes huge tie into homeschooling, obviously, right? And I think a real root behind their hate of the student and of learning and of anybody being allowed to be that for themselves is this other core belief in hating the family unit. So yeah, we'll get into that at another time. Thank you so much for listening to me. In the meantime, like I said, I'll put some links to blogs and podcasts where I've done some other talks on parenting at this really pivotal point in humanity and in the timelines that we are at presently. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you can find that there. Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time.